Next dynasty, Lewis. Is that McNuts?
No, that's not McNuts. Look, they're stacked right now. They're loaded. Everyone's coming back on offense other than Mekhi Becton, the starting right guard. They'll probably figure out a way to re-sign him. On the defensive side of the football, they draft defensive linemen and stockpile defensive linemen better than anyone. So we'll see what happens with Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, who absolutely terrorized Kansas City in the Super Bowl. But they're young at linebacker. They'll get Zach Bond re-signed. They're young in the secondary. This team is loaded, man. I think they're here to stay, unfortunately.
Okay, how
for
about
those who play against them?
How about the Vikings? They should keep Sam Darnold and trade J.J. McCarthy. Is that McNuts?
Yeah, I think that is McNuts. Look, I'm a J.J. McCarthy fan, and I'm a Sam Darnold fan. I think Sam found the exact right spot for him in terms of system style and the way in which Kevin McCarthy and Josh McCown taught him this year and coached him and allowed him to continue to ascend all throughout the regular season until they got into the playoffs. But I think it's crazy to think that right now that J.J. McCarthy is not the future. He was on his way. He may not have started this year, but they had a great plan in place for him. I think he takes over in 2025.
Okay, Lewis. How about the Steelers? They should sign Aaron Rodgers. Is that Monica McNuts?
That's not Monica McNutt. That's Aaron Rodgers. And you know what? I think this is the kind of place that Aaron's going to have to go in terms of if he really wants to maximize his potential. And by that I mean this. You are not going to tell Mike Tomlin what kind of offense you want to run. You're not going to tell Mike Tomlin what offensive coordinator you want to bring in. But you will get from Mike Tomlin someone who's a proven winner and has great structure. That's probably what he needs at this point in his career, as weird as that sounds to say.
You know, the interesting thing here, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, Adam Schefter said this really fascinating about a potential landing spot for the 41-year-old quarterback. Take a listen.
If the Rams couldn't get a deal done with Stafford, if they decided to trade him, a lot of ifs involved, then Aaron Rodgers, in my mind, would be thrilled with the idea of going to Los Angeles. And the Rams could probably get him at a lower cost than it would be for Matthew Stafford.
So you hear what Adam has to say. Obviously, if Stafford finds a new place, why does Aaron...
Well, you can do the basketball.
Okay.
Let's swap that.
We're going to swap out.
All right.
We're going to talk about my team.
That's a power move, wasn't it?
I know the Jets.
Wow. Listen, I host the show in New York. You might have heard of it. This has been a conversation every day. I got a lot to say about this.
Okay, if that's the case, then, Lewis, why does Aaron...
I got to reset.
Yeah.
Reset. Okay, go ahead, go.
Okay. This is not McNuts that he's coming in on this.
I'm feeling a little bit McNuts right now, but yeah, go ahead.
Why, in your opinion, does Aaron Rodgers to the Rams make sense to you?
Look, like I said, when we were talking about Pittsburgh, he needs that kind of structure. He needs a coach who's going to say, hey, listen, you're not going to bring in your coordinator. You're not going to bring in your wide receivers. You're not going to, run the plays you want to run. Sean McVay is as trusted as a head coach and play caller as there is in the NFL. He's a proven winner. He's a magnetic personality. He's a proven team builder and a proven head coach. And I think that system out there, we've seen what Sean's system can do. We've seen what this system can do throughout the NFL in terms of the heavy run, play action, under center type of system, which I think Aaron would absolutely tear it up in. He played good football last year. Things just got away from him because of the structure in New York. They let him do whatever he wanted to do. If he'll go to a place like L.A., I think you'd see him have one of the best seasons of his career.
Wow. Does he have the humility? I guess that's the question, Kmart.
That's a question Aaron has to answer. Because when you're a future Hall of Famer and you're used to things being your way, Lewis talked about the structure. That's what let everything get away. They brought him in to sort of build that structure, to help build the culture. So Aaron he's got to take a lot of responsibility for what happened in New York. That was on his watch. Now, I do believe going to a team like the Steelers, going to a team like the Rams, there's one voice in Pittsburgh. It's Mike Tomlin. So whether he'll have the best season, I don't know. I see it either being exactly what we saw with the Jets, or I see them finishing exactly like they did last year. I'm not convinced based on the diminished skill set that I've seen from Aaron, and I just don't know if he's going to have a monster season.
Han, you pointed out, you host the Jets show. You're here on
Talk about it, Alan. Talk about it.
You've seen him up close. Does he have enough left in the tank?
Yeah, on the field, skill-wise, we saw it at the end of the season that coming off an injury like that, it does take time. By the end of the season, he started to look more like a guy that definitely could be a starter in this league when you compare him to some other starters in this league. He had one of the great seasons by a quarterback in Jets history, and they were awful. Think about that for a minute.
That speaks to what the Jets were.
Absolutely right. But one thing I'll say is that we're talking about, we always try to take him now and say, but in this situation, in that situation, skill-wise, he's got everything you need. The problem is, what's not in his skill set is conformity. And that is something that buyer beware.
That's exactly why we're talking about. Where he goes is important, not in terms of like who do they have. Well, that's always important at wide receiver, what kind of running game they have, offensive line and all that. But it's the person that he's going to be working with, the person that when he walks in the building, he's going to see first, the guy who's going to meet him first. If it's Sean McVay and Mike Tomlin, I'll put some money on that.
Wow.
I'll put some money on that working out. If it's something else, some coach that's going to go in there and be like, hey, Aaron, whatever you want, nah, that's not it.
All right.
About Super Bowl standouts from the Eagles D-line who got after Patrick Mahomes relentlessly. Josh Sweat, Milton Williams are also about to hit the open market. So we're about to play a little buy or sell as we welcome our resident GM, Louis Riddick, ahead of the free agency window opening on March 12th. Louis, good morning. Fantastic to see you. Matt Bowen has that article picking the best team fits for some of these notable free agents. So we're going to do a little buy or sell. Let's start Russell Wilson to the Giants. Louis, you buying or selling that?
I'm selling it, Gary. I don't necessarily like this fit. I think for the New York Giants, look, obviously they're faced with a decision to make in terms of do they go the veteran route to try and really, jumpstart this football team in a situation where the coach and the general manager could be in trouble at the end of this year, or do they try and move up in the draft and get a quarterback that they like and someone who they can build around, or do they try and go both? Quite honestly, if I'm looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback situation, I would want Justin Fields. I love the dual threat capability of Justin. I love the kind of things that maybe Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka, the offensive coordinator, could do to really unleash and unlock a lot of the skills that he has. So if I'm going the veteran route and I'm looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers situation, it's Justin Fields for me. If I'm really going the veteran route and I can swing a trade, I'm going all in for my guy Matthew Stafford.
Okay. And that's a juicy little nugget to nibble on as well. A couple of quarterbacks in their age 36 season. Might get to that in a second. Future Hall of Famer Zach Martin to the Chiefs. Louis, you buying or selling that?
I'm buying this, especially if Trey Smith is someone who Brett Veach has to let hit the free agent market and isn't able to strike a deal that really makes sense as far as fitting him into their salary cap structure for 25 and beyond. Look, Zach is a guy who dealt with a few injuries at the end of last year. I think he dealt with a shoulder, dealt with some ankle issues, but he has been a stalwart at right guard, and he would be a plug and play on this Kansas City offensive line. That the interior three should be locked down next year with Creed Humphrey, Joe Thuney moving back in the left guard, and then if you move Zach Martin in the right guard again if Trey Smith leaves. The situation for Kansas City is the tackle situation. That is where I promise you right now, Brett Veach is in the film room right now trying to figure out how they solidify that. And that's, just kind of leads into a whole bigger discussion about Kansas City and what they do on this offensive line and how they fortify it given the embarrassment they had in the Super Bowl. But Zach Martin would make sense at right guard.
Patrick Mahomes, seeing this as a buy, is like, hey, I'll chip in. I'll throw in a couple of bucks. All right, the Vegas Raiders have the number 6 pick in this year's draft. That in mind, should they go after Sam Darnold, assuming he doesn't get tagged by the Vikings? Buy or sell that?
Yeah, I'm going to sell this one too. Look, I think Sam needs to be in the perfect fit, in the perfect type of offense. He needs to be in an offense like he just came from with Kevin O'Connell. He needs to be in a Kyle Shanahan type of offense, a Sean McVay type of offense. I like Chip Kelly a lot.